Shawn Combs has been, according to the judge, vigorously nodding during some of this cross, engaging with jurors, or at least appearing that he's trying to, looking at jurors. That is not allowed.
It's looking like Diddy done paid off the jury. He giving them signals like he the coach on their team. He making sure they disagree or agree whatever he want them to. It sounds to me like he put a bag on the table, the same way he did for that hotel surveillance video.
This is involving the Shawn Combs trial. Senior national correspondent Laura Ingle is standing by with legal analyst Misty Maris. And Laura, you are learning Combs could potentially be removed from his trial and not allowed in the courtroom. What can you tell us?
That's right, Nicole. This has just happened in the last few minutes, and this would be a huge development if he is removed for the rest of the trial. And what has happened here, as we are going through the cross-examination of one of Cassie Ventura's friends, who we've been telling you about, Brianna, who has been on the stand, Shawn Combs has been, according to the judge, vigorously nodding during some of this cross, engaging with jurors, or at least appearing that he's trying to, looking at jurors. That is not allowed. And as you mentioned, legal analyst Misty Maris is here. I'm just going to scoot her in. This is breaking news, so we're just bringing her right in because we're here at the courthouse together. You just came over to tell me what the judge said. Explain to us what this means.
Yeah, so this was huge because what the judge admonished the defense team, saying that Combs had been engaging with the jury, meaning that he's making direct eye contact with the jury and having a reaction, nodding his head. The judge said this is jury interference. It's to influence the jury, and actually referenced that the defense was warned not only today during Bongolin's testimony, but also had been warned previously during the testimony of George Kaplan. So this feeds into a federal rule which relates to disruptive conduct by the defendant in the courtroom. And the rule says that if somebody is warned by the judge, if the defendant is warned, but the conduct continues, one of the consequences could be removal from the courtroom for the remainder of the trial. And Laura, that is of huge consequence to the defense.
Yeah, and all along we've been seeing Shawn Combs, passing notes, and that's allowed with his defense. He's been very active. He's been paying attention, and we have heard of him nodding along during some of the testimony, but this is something different.
Correct. So engagement with your attorneys, passing notes during testimony, even being a bit reactive to witness testimony, looking at the witness and perhaps having a reaction and looking engaged, all fine. It's when it comes down to engagement with jurors and something that could tend to influence them in some way. And what the court looks at is their influence or intimidation. Is that what the defendant is doing, and could it have that impact? So here the judge was taking a very strong stance. And keep in mind, from the defense perspective, that would be the most severe consequence, removal from the courtroom, because every defendant has the right to face their accusers. So it would set up a very significant appellate issue. The judge doesn't want to do it unless he has to, but the warning is out there, the warning shot has been fired, and it's something that could happen.
Wow, that's so interesting. And we've also heard that Shawn Combs allegedly had been trying to have some witness tampering, calling people from jail, trying to get to some witnesses. So there's been this kind of alleged overreach throughout getting to this point.
Certainly. And so the judge, again, taking the legal team aside, and this was not in the presence of the jury, right, just so everybody understands that this is something that happens with the parties, the prosecutors and defense. And we didn't know before that this admonishment had happened previously. Right. So this is not the first time the defense team has heard this. The judge even saying, was I not clear this morning? Wow. And the defense team saying, yes, you were clear, it won't happen again, and that they'll speak to the client. But the consequence, especially with multiple warnings, could be removal from the courtroom. And the reason this matters is the jury, it's not going to be lost on the jury if Shawn Combs is not in the courtroom for the remainder of his very serious criminal trial. And there won't really be an explanation. So it could be something that would be deemed an adverse inference, and the defense does not want that to happen. It would be very detrimental. Certainly we know the jury has eyes on him, and the problem is that he's making eyes at the jury. So we'll see what the judge does with this.
All right, Misty Maris, thank you so much for that explanation. And as we continue to move through this day of testimony, we are still expecting that witness, Jane, one of the accusers in this case. So a huge day here at the Shawn Combs trial, and we'll continue to bring you up to date. I just want to get that to you, Nicole, because as Misty said, this is a really big deal.
This is a really big deal. So yeah, we will continue to follow along with that. Laura Ingle live for us there in New York, along with Misty Maris. Thank you both.
The jury there listening all day about how everybody got paid. The people at the hotel got paid. Cassie got paid. All of his assistants, the people that came out with allegations got paid. He's a generous brother. That's how he ended up in this situation in the first place. If Diddy was stingy, he wouldn't have been willing to pay these people to do the things that they're accusing him of doing. I know the jury got to be thinking, when do we get paid? Cassie sitting on 30 mil. The assistant don't work for him for I don't know how long. I'm pretty sure she got M's in the bank. All the other assistants been working with him long enough to been on racked up some millions. And on top of that, Cassie was on drugs real bad.
In our Law and Justice League, dramatic testimony today in the Shawn Combs sex trafficking and racketeering trial. The jury heard from 2 witnesses, including a longtime friend of Cassie Ventura, who says Combs held her over the railing of a 17th floor balcony. Now, we should note Combs has pleaded not guilty to the charges. Let's get straight to CNN's Kara Scannell, Elizabeth Wagmeister. Both of you were inside the court today. Elizabeth, to start with you, the stunning testimony from Ventura's friend who told the jury about several violent encounters, including when Combs and Ventura threw a knife at one another. What did you make of it?
Yes, so that was a brand new allegation. Brianna Bongol, and she goes by by Bonna, and she is a very close friend of Cassie Ventura. They met around 2014, 2015, and they remain good friends to this day. In fact, she said that Cassie texted her today. Well, she alleged that Shawn Combs dangled her over the 17th floor balcony at Cassie Ventura's apartment in Los Angeles. As you said, Phil, she also alleged that one time Shawn Combs showed up at Cassie's apartment in the middle of the night, was banging on the door, and when he came in, he threw a knife at her. She also testified to a verbal threat that Combs said to her one time. So here you have Bonna, who is not just testifying to her own allegations, but also the prosecution clearly bringing her up here in an effort to corroborate parts of Cassie's account. But I do have to tell you, on cross-examination, the defense brought up that Bonna herself has a civil suit against Combs and essentially saying to her, are you here for money and are you telling the truth?
Kara, to that point, in terms of what the Combs legal team did today, that pushback, how were they operating in their cross-examination?
Well, Phil, they focus on a couple of different areas. One of them, drug use, because part of the allegations in this case is prosecutors say that Combs had drugged Ventura, that he was forcing drugs on her. And what Bonna had testified to was that she and Cassie were using drugs before Bonna even met Combs. She said that they were essentially doing drugs on a weekly basis, and they had this arrangement where Ventura would give her the money and she would get the drugs. And on cross-examination, she was asked about how many drugs she had done with Ventura, and they went through at least 10 different kinds of drugs that they were using, which was far more than what was brought out by the prosecution on direct. They also, Combs' attorneys, focused on her memory of these details of the balcony, of the knife. And she was asked, just 2 days ago you met with prosecutors, you said to them then that you didn't remember the details of the balcony, and Bonna testified, I don't remember. So they're really testing that memory there, Phil.
Elizabeth, there was a forensic audio and video editor who testified about that 2016 hotel surveillance tape that you first reported on. What was the importance of the testimony?
You know, so he was on the stand for nearly 2 hours, meticulously going through that video footage from that hotel. And they were rewinding, they were pressing play, they were pressing pause, and he was asked many questions. But what he said is that from his assessment as an expert witness, that this video footage was not altered. He said that this is a reliable representation of what actually happened at that hotel. And that is key, because you remember that Combs' team, they fought very hard to get that video footage ejected from evidence. They did not want the jury to see it, and part of their many arguments was that they alleged that that video footage was altered.
Kara, you're our eyes inside the courtroom, not just this trial, but so many trials that we've covered. Combs' reactions, what have you seen? What have you observed?
Well, Shawn Combs is very active in his defense, so he's constantly passing Post-it notes to his attorneys. He's constantly conferring with them. They come over and they talk to him in the middle of the cross-examination sometimes. Today, he seemed to be taking it in. I noticed him looking over at the jury a lot today to see perhaps how they were absorbing the testimony. And throughout the day, between the video witness and then also with Bonna's testimony, I mean, there were a lot of breaks, a lot of sidebars, a lot of fits and starts. And I saw a number of the jurors rubbing their eyes. You know, this has been a long trial. We're in week 4, but when the testimony starts, they are paying attention. Phil?
Two of the best. Kara Scannell, Elizabeth Wagmeister. Thank you, guys.
More compelling testimony today in the Shawn Diddy Combs trial. Brianna Bongolan, who's a friend of Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, is now being questioned by the defense.
And earlier, under direct examination, Bongolan said that she witnessed violence between the former couple. She also said that Combs once dangled her over the balcony of Ventura's 17th floor apartment and then threw her onto the balcony's furniture. CNN entertainment correspondent Elizabeth Wagmeister is outside the federal courthouse with more. So, Elizabeth, what's the latest?
So Bongolan is still on the stand as we speak, but as you said, her allegation is that Combs once dangled her over the 17th floor balcony from Cassie Ventura's Los Angeles apartment. Now, she also testified to some of the violence that she claims that she saw between Combs and Ventura. She said that on one occasion that Combs was banging on the door in the middle of the night of Ventura's Los Angeles apartment, and that he came inside and he threw a knife at her. That is the first time that we have heard that allegation. Now, she said that Cassie then threw the knife back at him and then he left. But she did say that there were numerous times that he would bang on her door in the middle of the night. Now, a big theme of her testimony, which started when the prosecution was questioning her, was her drug habit along with Ventura. Ms. Bongolan was testifying under an immunity deal, presumably because of all of this conversation about not just using illegal drugs, but also selling illegal drugs. Now, she was very honest about it, but when the defense questioned her, their line of questioning was essentially to make it seem like her and Cassie Ventura had a major drug problem, which again, Ms. Bongolan agreed with, and to also try to prove that Cassie Ventura had agency, that she was doing drugs outside of the presence of Mr. Combs. Now, you may recall, though, that during Cassie Ventura's testimony at the beginning of the trial, she said that her drug habit got much worse when she was dating Combs, and this friendship with Ms. Bongolan started in 2014, 2015, so that's more than 5 years after she began to date Combs. Now, the cross-examination, I've got to tell you, was very tense, very accusatory. They were asking her essentially, are you making this all up? And again, she's still on the stand, so more to come.
I don't know, man. Y'all gotta let me know how y'all feel about this in the comment section. Do y'all feel like Diddy whipped out that wallet and let the jury know he'll take care of them for the rest of their life if they just ignored all of the nonsense they've been hearing? Because I'm pretty sure the jury looked at him and he looked at the jury plenty of times during the trial. Because a lot of people couldn't even believe half of the stuff those people were saying in court. So Diddy about to get off. At least that's what I think. And if he don't, they're going to have to answer a whole lot of questions. How you go to jail for not doing the crime? And if he did do a crime, how come they couldn't prove the crime in the court of law? He wasn't even having sex with nobody. Unless you can go to jail for whacking off or Astroglide. Whatever happened to the allegations about him and Justin Bieber and the underground tunnels and all this other stuff? Y'all gotta let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section, man. I got so much love for y'all. I'ma holla at y'all on my next video.